ماشي.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، نحمده ونسبحه ونقدسه على آلائه ونعمائه، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، إلها واحدا أحدا فردا صمدا قيوما، ونشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وترحم على محمد وآل محمد كأفضل ما صليت وسلمت وباركت وترحمت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وصل اللهم وسلم على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين والأوصياء والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وعترة نبيك الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين والخلص من أصحابه المنتجبين، وعلى سيدنا ومولانا الإمام الحجة بن الحسن المهدي المنتظر عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل مخرجه. عباد الله، أوصي نفسي وأوصيكم بتقوى الله ولزوم أمره. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما أريد أن أشق عليك ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. One of the moral and ethical qualities, human qualities that makes our life more peaceful and more beautiful is the quality of al-rifq, leniency, being gentle, being lenient with people. Leniency means tenderness. It means softness and gentleness. Al-rifq. It is the exact opposite of khushuna, roughness and toughness and harshness and hardness. Khushuna and qaswa. Always Islam, always our holy book, always our Prophet and our Imams invite us to pursue leniency, rifq in our life. Leniency in your speech, when you address people, when you speak to people, when you are sitting in a session, use softness and gentleness and kindness in your words. When you walk in the street, وَاقْصُدْ فِي مَشْيِكَ وَاغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ. Luqman says to his son, وَاقْصُدْ فِي مَشْيِكَ. Be moderate in your pace when you walk. Don't walk too fast. وَاقْصُدْ فِي مَشْيِكَ وَاغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ. Lower your voice. When you speak with people, do not scream. Do not be harsh. Do not damage their ears. Be careful when you speak. There are kids, there are women, there are elderly, there are people who cannot tolerate the harsh voice, the loud voice. When you deal with people, be lenient. Be soft always in your behavior, in your relationship. Don't be harsh on people. وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَيْكَ. This is a verse in the Quran. Shu'aib is telling Musa alayhi salam, you would work for me maybe 8 years. Maybe if you add another 10, it's a kindness from you. فَإِنْ أَتْمَمْتَ عَشْرًا فَمِنْ عِنْدِكَ وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَيْكَ. You would not find me being a tough boss, being a harsh one. I would not be hard on you. وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَشُقَّ. Ashuk means being tough. Don't be tough with people who work for you, who live around you, who are your friends. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says, مَا وُضِعَ الرِّفْقُ عَلَى شَيْءٍ إِلَّا زَانَهُ. Whenever leniency is added to anything, any behavior, any action, any sayings, any relationship, it will beautify it. This leniency, this gentleness, this softness, if you add it to anything in life, it will make it beautiful. وَمَا رُفِعَ عَنْ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا زَانَهُ. When you remove leniency from anything in life, it will make it look ugly. Ugly. So leniency is important in our relationship, in our speech, with our family members. I mentioned a few weeks ago that harsh words, when we speak difficult and harsh and unkind words, it will damage some of the cells in our brains. People who are listening to you, not only they're going to get offended emotionally, they're going to lose some of the cells in their brains. This is the casualty of qaswa, of harshness and toughness and hardness and roughness. Stay away from that in your life. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also says, إِذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِأَهْلِ بَيْتٍ خَيْرًا. If God intends goodness for a family, if He intends goodness for them, we might think that He will give them a bigger house, a nicer, more expensive car, beautiful furniture, decorated house. He did not say these things. He said, إِذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِأَهْلِ بَيْتٍ خَيْرًا. If Allah intends goodness for them, جَعَلَ الرِّفْقَ أَدْخَلَ عَلَيْهِمْ بَابَ الرِّفْقِ. He would gift them with a faculty of softness and leniency. They are lenient with one another. When you go to their home, you don't hear any screams. No one insults each other. They listen to each other. They respect each other. They understand each other. They humble themselves before each other. They are not harsh. This harshness is going to lead into people being dispersed and disintegrated. And one of the fields that we really need leniency and rifq is the field of religion. Parents, when they speak to their kids, teachers, imams, shaykhs, when they speak to their audiences, they have to be very lenient with them. When you wake up your children for the prayers, when you ask them to pray, ask them in a good way, in a lenient way, in a gentle way, not in a threatening. Don't use a threatening and harsh words. I saw in one of the countries for 60 years, and I saw it with my own eyes. I experienced this. In one of the countries, they would ask people to pray. At the time of the prayers, they had to shut their shops. Some of you in the audience know that. You lived in that country. And if you don't, they will break the window. The front window of the shop will be damaged. Some of the mutawa'in come, salah, 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 left and right at the time of salah. And with harshness, with toughness, with incivility, they approach the people, and by force they send them to the masjid. I would see that some of the shopkeepers, they hide inside the shop and they close the door, but they are inside, not praying. After 60 years, the government realized that this is wrong. It's not only not bringing people to the prayers, it is repulsing them, making them run away from prayers, hating the prayers. They don't want to pray. They lost a huge generation. The young generation is lost. They don't pray. They don't pray. They don't go to the mosque. They hate to hear the voice of adhan. If you go to that country, 99% of the congregants in the mosque, in any mosque, are foreigners, not the citizens of that country. Go and see for yourself. This is the result of harshness. When you deal with people with harshness, with toughness, this is the result. With qaswa, do not be qasi. وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَيْكَ. Don't use qaswa and toughness and harshness with people. Don't use it with your kids. Don't teach them religion through the language of a threat. The language of a threat is a failing language. It's not a successful language. Don't. ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة. Beautiful advice, nice, humble. Consider people to be your brothers, your sisters, your sons, your daughters, your relatives. Don't use harshness with them. You are not going to compel people to pray, to follow God through threat, through terrorizing them, through always reminding them that God is a dictator who's standing there, and if you miss one prayers, if you miss one single act of worship, he sends you directly to Jahannam. This is wrong. This is wrong. We're going to lose our children. We're going to lose the young children. So use always leniency, rifq, al-rifq bin-nas. In your language, in your invitation, use this language. وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَيْكَ. Beautiful verse of the Quran. It captures my soul always when I read this. The boss is telling his employee, you would not find me someone who's savage, who's brutal, who's harsh on you. سَتَجِدُنِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. You will surely find me one of those who is virtuous and righteous with you. I'm not going to abuse you when you work for me. Don't abuse those people who work for you. Don't abuse them because they cannot afford attorney, they cannot afford to defend themselves. Don't. Consider any person, even if he's a foreigner, he doesn't belong, subscribe to your religion or your language or your race, consider him at least a human being, human soul. This is a human soul working for me, serving me. So do not be harsh with them. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، نحمده ونسبحه ونقدسه على آلائه ونعمائه، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأن سيدنا محمدًا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وترحم على محمد وآل محمد كأفضل ما صليت وسلمت وباركت وترحمت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وصل اللهم وسلم على خلفاء نبيك وأوصيائه وأهل بيته وأحبته علي أمير المؤمنين وقائد الغر المحجلين، وعلى البضعة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، وعلى سبطي نبي الرحمة وسيدي شباب أهل الجنة الحسن والحسين عليهما السلام، وعلى علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والإمام الخلف الهادي المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل مخرجه وجعلنا من عباده أنصاره وأعوانه. عباد الله، أوصيكم وأوصي نفسي بتقوى الله ولزوم أمره. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولو أن أهل الكتاب آمنوا واتقوا لكفرنا عنهم سيئاتهم ولأدخلناهم جنات النعيم. The divide and the schism between Islam and Judaism is not only a political one, it's doctrinal and theological too. It goes back to thousands of years ago. This is not a new conflict. This is at least 4,000 years old conflict. If you read the Torah and examine it and read it line by line and verse by verse, you will find that discrimination and racism begins 4,000 years ago in the Holy Book, which we do not believe these are the words of God. This book, according to the Quran, this book, part of it is the word of God, but the other part is man-made. There are rabbis who changed some of the verses and some of the chapters. So not entirely man-made, neither entirely God-made. So if you look at the story of Ibrahim and his two sons, Ishaq and Ismail, Isaac and Ishmael, you would see the discrimination very visible right from the beginning. Whenever this book speaks about Isaac, who's the forefather of Judaism, he's the father of Jacob. Jacob's name later was changed into Israel. And Jacob, Israel, is the grandfather of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. When he speaks about Isaac, this book speaks with respect, with honor, with dignity. But when he speaks about Ishmael, he denigrates Ishmael. He considers Ishmael to be the illegitimate son of Ibrahim. He's not a full son, he's illegitimate son. Why? Because in book of Genesis, this is the first book of the Torah, book of Genesis, chapter 16. When you go home, if you don't have the Bible, Google it yourself. Write it down now and Google it later. Chapter 16, in the book of Genesis, it says that Sarah could not conceive with a child for so many years. And therefore she lived with her husband Ibrahim in Egypt. So when she could not conceive, she said to her husband, I'm going to do you a favor. I know you are not feeling well. You don't have a child. So I am going to do you a favor. I have a maid, and her maid, her Egyptian, it says Egyptian maid, is Hagar. So I am going to give you Hajar as a loan, use her as a loan, just to conceive and make a son for you, and have a son. And Ibrahim was very desperate, according to the Torah. He was getting very old in age. He was almost 99, or less than 99, later on. Yeah, circumcision was 99, when he did his circumcision, according to this book. So he was desperate, and he said, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Habibti, my sweetie. And he married Hajar, and he had Ismail. And therefore Ismail's mother is Sarah's maid. This is exactly what this book says, chapter 16 in the book of Genesis. So she's not a full lady. She's not a full first-class wife. She's a second-class, third-class wife, because she is Sarah's maid. And Sarah did a favor to Ibrahim to give him her maid, so he can get a boy, he can get a child. This is one place. Whereas in the same chapter, book of Genesis, in the same book, when the Torah speaks about the children of Israel, it tells us a story. It says Jacob, the grandfather of Israel, he married his two cousins. And with them, he married their maids too. So each cousin has a maid. So he married the cousin and her maid. And they were 2 plus 2. So he had 4 women. 2 of them were wives, 2 of them were maids. And out of those 4 women, the children of Israel, the 12 children of Israel were born. But this book never says that some of those children of Israel, they come from maids. So they are second-class citizens. It doesn't say some of them are illegitimate because their mothers are what? Are maids. So when it comes to the Israelis, they are first-class citizens, though their mothers are maids. But when it comes to Ismail, he's not first-class. He's illegitimate son of Ibrahim. He came by accident because Sarah could not have a child. When it comes to us, our book, this book, says, لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. We do not discriminate. We do not even distinguish between the messengers of God. Isaac is a full messenger. Jacob is a full messenger. Ismail is the full messenger. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the full messenger. لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. There is no room for discrimination. There is no room to say this is first-class citizen and this is second-class. There is no room to say that this is the son of a maid and this is a son of a full wife. Half of our imams, the imams of Ahlul Bayt, their mothers were maids. They were slaves in the market. Half of our imams, including Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam. That do not make them less of a human being. In the eyes of God, we are equal. So look at the story of discrimination. It goes back in the Holy Book which is rehearsed and recited in the synagogues and the churches. This is the story. It's not about 8 years ago or 100 years ago, thousands of years ago. This is one of the differences. And then when the book comes, if you read chapter 17, follow chapter 17 verse by verse, the name of Ismail, though the book itself says Ismail was born 13 years before Isaac, 13 years. But when it comes to the story of the sacrifice, they remove the name of Ismail. They omit Ismail and they replace it with what? With Isaac. They change the story. Though the book it says Ismail was born before Ishaq, before even Ishaq came to this life. And the story happened during that time. But then when they edit the book, racism works here. They omit the name of Ismail and they change it, replace it with Ishaq. If you come to our book, what does the Quran say about Bani Israel? وَمِن قَوْمِ مُوسَى أُمَّةٌ يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ وَبِهِ يَعْدِلُونَ. Speaks about them 50 times. 50 times Bani Israel is mentioned in the Quran. 137 times Musa is mentioned in the Quran. 18 times this book, the Torah, is mentioned in the Quran. With respect, with honor. We don't disrespect, we don't discriminate. Though it is a different language, different religion, but it is respected because it was sent by God, from God. We don't denigrate these religions. This is our duty. When we believe in a Prophet Muhammad, we must believe in Isa, we must believe in Musa, we must believe in Nuh, we must believe in Ibrahim, we must believe in David and Solomon and all the prophets, all the messengers. They are all one nation, one community. Quran says they are inna hadihi ummatukum ummatan wahida. The pool, the community of the prophets and messengers are one ummah, one nation. We don't put some of them down because they do not subscribe to my color or my language or my race. This is number one. When the Quran rebukes Bani Israel, and it does rebuke them on some occasions, it's not because of their race. It is because of their disobedience to God. They disobeyed God. Not because they are the Jewish people or they have a specific race. They disobeyed God. And the same thing Quran does with the Arabs. When they disobeyed God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rebukes them in the same book, in the Quran. Allah says, وَكَذَّبَ بِهِ قَوْمُكَ وَهُوَ الْحَقِّ. Ya Rasulullah, your community, Quraysh, the Arab, they denied this book. They rejected the book. While it's a true book. وَلَمَّا ضُرِبَ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ مَثَلًا إِذَا قَوْمُكَ مِنْهُ يَصُدُّونَ. When we presented the son of Mary, Jesus, as a parable, as an example, first people to deny and reject him were your qawm, the Arabs, Quraysh. So he rebukes the Arabs. This is justice in the Quran. When you do good, God does not look at your race, what language you speak. He looks at your character. Inna akramakum indallah atqakum. There is no chosen race in Islam. If you want to be chosen, do more good. Be more righteous. You will be the chosen. It's not because you are born from Muhammad or from Ismail or Isaac or this or that or white or black. Has nothing to do. Irrelevant. خلق الله الجنة لمن أطاعه ولو كان عبدا حبشيا وخلق النار لمن عصاه ولو كان سيدا قرشيا. God designated paradise for all mankind. Even if they are slaves and black, they can go first. And God designated Jahannam for those who disobey him, even if they are from the heart of Mecca, downtown Mecca, from Quraysh, because they disobey God. This is the criteria in Islam. And then you come here to, I have more of this, I don't want to take your time. In chapter 17, verse 8, here, God says to Abraham, and I will give unto thee and to thy seed, meaning your children, after thee, when you are gone, the land wherein thou art a stranger. You are a stranger in that land, the land of Canaan. You are a stranger, but I will give you. It means you are a foreigner from that land. It does not belong to you, Ya Ibrahim. But I will give you that land, the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession. And I will be their God. So God, according to the book of Genesis, promised Ibrahim to give you the land of Palestine, the land of Canaan, for him and his seeds till the day of judgment. Everlasting possession. But who are the children of Ibrahim and his seeds? If you ask the Jews, they say only the descendants of Isaac, not the descendant of Ismail. The descendants of Ismail, they do not deserve this land because they are not legitimate descendant of Ibrahim. They are illegitimate descendant. The only legitimate descendant are the Jews. And this is why there is no right for the Palestinians to live there. According to the Israeli law of return, when they invite the Jews to come, they don't also include the Jews who converted to Christianity or to Islam. Jews who are converted to Islam and Christianity have no right to go back to Palestine. Though they are the descendants of Ibrahim, from Isaac, from Jacob, but because they converted, they lose the right of return. Because Golda Meir, if you remember her, back in the 70s, she was the prime minister. She said there is no such thing called Palestinians. They do not exist. They do not exist. She does not even recognize some people as being Palestinians. Only people who exist are the Jews. And they forgot that it was not Islam who inflicted damage on them. Who committed Holocaust, my friend? It was Europe, a Christian Europe, who committed the Holocaust and the crimes for many centuries against the Jews. It was the Christendom, Christian Europe, who once said that the Jews, we have to fight them and murder them because they killed the Son of God. They rejected the Son of God. It wasn't the Muslims or the Arabs. And now Islam is paying the price. The Arab is paying the price. Not Europe, not those people who inflicted damage and persecuted the Jews for so many centuries. They don't pay the price. Not only they don't pay the price, they participate in this carnage and this slaughter every single day. They send money, they send weapons. So Israel continues its slaughter and genocide against the innocent people in Gaza. These are the genesis of this conflict. It's a long genesis. This is one of the differences between Judaism and Islam. And if you have discussion, you must have the Bible with you. You must have the evidence to show, so they can read, because some people do not read. Some people do not read their history. Some people do not want to acknowledge these things in their books. But you must educate yourself, equip yourself with the evidence. So when you have a discussion, you have a scientific discussion. You don't have emotional discussion. You have the burhan, you have the evidence, you have the dalil. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring victory for the people of Gaza, people of Palestine, inshallah. Today, the day 70 of this attack and this war on Gaza, so far more than 20,000 people were killed. More than 60 people so far, 60,000 people were injured and wounded. 3/4 of them are women and children, civilians, on this 70 day. But we are sure that Allah will bring His victory. Do not give up on your dua. Do not give up on your support. Continue praying and supporting. Allahumma aghfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat. Tonight, inshallah, we have the last majlis, the second majlis of commemorating Lady Fatimah Zahra alayhi salam. And regarding the Ark Academy, inshallah, we are working for a firm to get the CUP, inshallah, conditional use permit, to begin the renovation. And once we begin the renovation, inshallah, the registration will open. And we anticipate, inshallah, it would be in August 2023, inshallah. Many people are working hard. 2024. I can't believe 23 is gone. Many people are working hard. Dr. Mahdi Taqi, pray for him. Ali Muhammadi and the rest of the team are working very hard to make this a reality, and we need your money for the renovation. The renovation is estimated at 1.2. The building was 4.4. The renovation 1.2. So we need your help and your commitment, inshallah. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات اللهم أنزل نصرك على إخوتنا في فلسطين يا أرحم الراحمين وعجل في فرج سيدنا ومولانا صاحب العصر والزمان وإلى أرواح الشهداء والمؤمنين ثواب الفاتحة مع الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد